Hello, and welcome to the Finding the Unicorn in You podcast. What a beautiful day to inspire lives. My name is Jaime G, Raygoza, your host, and I am so excited to have you here. Let's get ready to meet some fantastic unicorns and learn how to unleash the inner unicorn in you. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Finding the Unicorn in You. This episode is a bit different than what I've done before. I usually don't cover current events here, but in lieu of what's happening right now in Hawaii, and how the numbers keep rising up in people who have been found dead due to the wildfires that occurred, I wanted to discuss a little bit about it and offer some resources so that we can be better prepared in case something does happen in our state, in our living area, and how to prepare for natural disasters. First of all, like I said, this is something I really don't talk about normally. Personally, I've been to Hawaii. It's a beautiful island. I feel that if you've ever gone, I think you need to give back one way or another because one, we're going into somebody else's home. We're going to a very segregated part of the United States that they have been impacted by colonialism and different industries going out there trying to take advantage of the beauty of the nature of Hawaii. And we sometimes selfishly don't think about the consequences of our actions and what things, by us being there, how that can lead to what's going on now. I don't know a lot about what led to the fires. I just know that as of August 17th, there's been 110 deaths that have been reported due to the fires. And particularly the one that got hit the most was Maui. And that's actually the island that I went to when I was young. The wildfires burned through several people's homes. It left a lot of them homeless. It destroyed so much land and I'm sorry if I mispronounce this, in Lahaina, Hawaii. And it destroyed landmarks, it destroyed homes, it destroyed communities. And it just is very sad. And if you really put yourself in their shoes, imagine just getting ripped, everything that you've known since you were young, just getting ripped out of your life and you have nothing. You just absolutely lost everything. All your memories inside your home, all of the experiences you had, all of the people that you knew, like your community is just taken away from you. I can only imagine how that would feel. I've seen social media and TikTok and people are taking it very lightly and it just upsets me because how can you put yourself, your needs and feelings ahead? Like I've seen people complain about how they had to reschedule their wedding or their vacation because of the fires. And that's the least of your concern. We're talking about people's lives. We're talking about how a lot of people's living were destroyed. Like I said, everything that you've known is gone. And this is just your personal life. But what about all the loved ones that you've lost? Your neighbors, your friends, parents, mothers, like all these people are human beings that had a life and relatives and they're just gone. I think that the situation of how this got led, it's unfortunate. And yes, natural disasters occur. But one of the things I've learned in my little research that I went into this wormhole of information was that a while ago, the Dole Company planted a lot of crops of pineapple and they let it go and it created like very large shrubs that dried out, which when the fire started going, it actually fed the fire and had things burn quicker because of all these shrubs that were left there. Another thing is that like the electric company failed to turn off the electricity during the fires. So that like when the fires went to the electric posts, it actually increased the fire and created an electric fire to make things worse. So it just amped up the disaster. So there was a lot of like holes in the system that kind of amped up the disaster that could have stopped it. If the vegetation was taken care of by the company that planted the vegetation, this could have been subsided or at least not as grave as it got to this point. If the electric company were to shut off the electricity, like I said, it wouldn't have gotten as bad as it went. So I think that people just didn't do what they were supposed to do due to ignorance, due to being uneducated. And this is why I'm talking about this, because I'm tired of seeing things like this occur and we just let it go because, oh, it doesn't affect me. It's not my family. It's not my home. So why should I care? You should care because we're people.
And just because it's not directly affecting you doesn't mean it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, they're still human beings. Stop being so selfish and start caring, whether it be through advocacy, through donating, through contacting, trying to see what you can do, fundraising, and we can do something to make it better for them. On the show notes, I'm going to have a list of different resources that one can contact if you have a loved one that is in the island that you would like to pass this along. Feel free to click the resources. I saw a couple people on TikTok that created GoFundMe's and like a list of Excel sheets where they actually have actual families that were affected by the fires that you can donate to, and you can actually select families. So I'm going to have those links there so that you can actually click and donate as well. Do whatever you can, share it around. It doesn't have to be monetary, but as long as you're talking about it, sharing the information out, then you can make it a little bit better. For me, I actually interviewed someone from Maui and she was talking about her experiences, and which is actually the next episode. And the reason it just hit me home because I literally was just interviewing her a few weeks ago and all of this happened and I did not plan it, but her episode was already scheduled to launch today. And I just felt I couldn't just post it and release it without actually talking about it as well. Because like I said, I just can't sit around and be ignorant and just let things subside because I feel that it's just not right. So I wanted to say my 2 cents about it and really talk about the topic and bring it to light. If you want to support her and her family and everything that was there, watch the episode. And at the end, there's resources there of the books that she's selling and other resources. And coincidentally, she talks about grief and death and how she works with grief and helps people get through grief. We need it now more than ever. So if you're being, like I said, affected by the fires, or if you just know someone who might benefit from her resources, go ahead and get connected with her, watch the episode and give her some support. I will post blog on it so that we can just have more information be put out there. But I want to talk about a little bit about natural disasters. So a little bit of my background, I was actually certified by the American Red Cross a few years ago. I say a few, but it was like it was about from 20, I want to see from 2008 all the way till 2018, 19 is when I let my certifications expire just because I shifted careers. But I was a certified lifeguard, water safety instructor, emergency preparedness, and I worked a lot on emergency action plans and how to remain safe, especially with knowing CPR, first aid, Title 22. It was something that was a big passion and it still is now. No matter where you live in the States or if you're listening to this podcast outside from a different country, it is important for y'all to be prepared in case of any natural disaster, whether it be flooding, thunderstorms, earthquakes, fires, whatever it may be, tornadoes. You have to be prepared and have an emergency action plan, an EAP, for your household or where you're living. One of the most common things that is recommended is that you have a safety packet or like a go-to box or a backpack where you can easily grab in case of an emergency if you have to leave right away. They highly recommend to have like a lockbox or, like I said, a backpack, a safe that you can easily access any important documents such as your social, passport, ID, birth certificates, and things of that nature. Really important documents that you would hate to lose. As well, have a hard drive where you back up all of your data in it as a backup in there in case you can't grab your computer and things like that. Any files, virtual files that you would like, have a terabyte tower that you can put in the safe too, so you can just easily grab it and go, or on the backpack, or like I said, wherever. But anything that is valuable, put it in there that you can just grab, like family pictures, portraits, things of that nature. And that's just so that you don't just lose it in case you have to evacuate the facility, like your home or your general area, and you can't get to it. So just get it right away, grab it, and it's easier than you just go. A lot of people feel that they need to grab things right away as much as they can, but at the end of the day, your life is way more important than any material possession that you may have. So if you don't have time to grab these things, yes, it may be a headache, but they're replaceable and you can eventually get through it. But don't grab just like your PlayStation or your screens or your printer or whatever it may be, just because you're like, oh, whatever. First is the essentials. Like I said, your most important thing, family members, pets, and any other things that are like life or death situation that are worth grabbing. If you have time, then yeah, grab some other material items, but don't put your safety at risk just because you are like in a state of crisis. Another thing in case of an emergency, what's recommended is a safety pack. So like in there, have a first aid where you should have at least a couple sets of 4 or 5 or even 6 sets of bandages, different types of bandages, like roll-up gauzes, band-aids, compression packs, ice packs, emergency blankets in order to keep yourself warm, as well as like scissors, medical tape, and so sometimes they have like ointments such as antibiotic ointments. They have that they sell now Band-Aid glue. You can have stuff like that. Anything that is like you would pack your first aid kit just to be safe in case, like I said, an emergency or somebody gets injured. Inside that safety pack as well, you should have at least anywhere from 2 weeks to a month worth of non-perishable items that you can eat in case something were to happen and you need to leave your home and you don't have somewhere to go. And maybe, like I said, something happens and you can't access your debit card or you don't have cash on you. At least you have some non-perishable items. Or let's say that you have to, like that, like during the pandemic, we were closed in our home and we can't leave. Then at least you have certain items that you can eat during that time. So a lot of good is canned foods. You can have a lot of dried food and just look at the expiration date. And as long as it's good, then you should be good. And one of the things that, and don't quote me on this, but this is something that I've learned through research and through just the years of my of experience. Usually food that expires is usually good a little bit after the expiration date. Of course, if it starts growing mold and it starts smelling funky, go ahead and toss it out. You don't want food poisoning, but a lot of the dates that are put in food that expires are suggested dates for like suggested freshness, not necessarily have the expiration date when it actually expires. So it may taste a little stale, it may taste a little funky, but it's not doesn't mean it's bad for you. It's still edible. So in case of a true emergency, you can eat it if it has expired. Like I would say no more than a month. Like I said, address a medical professional and do your own research. But personally, like what I've done is been able to at least at least a month after expiration, I'm still willing to eat it. Like I said, but I do the smell test and also the texture test to make sure that there's no fungus or any mycelia growing in it so that you can potentially cause you to have food poisoning. If you see any clusters of fungi in there, then definitely do not try to eat it. I have learned recently actually from TikTok that the weight is like a tip of an iceberg. So there's a lot more strands of the fungus growing underneath it. So if you actually see fungus, then that's like a big indicator that is not good. So don't try to cut it off and eat it because there's still strands of the fungus inside the food that can potentially harm you and cause food poisoning. You don't want to cause that. This is the worst time to have food poisoning. I'm not saying that there's any good time to have food poisoning, but during a disaster and emergency is the worst time to have that since the resources are slim and you may not have access to like medics or going to the hospital right away. Like I said, it's good to have emergency packs. Also, 1 or 2 changes of clothing, recommended up to a week, but depending on how big your pack is and what fits in there, then, like I said, have at least a week's worth of food, a week's worth of clothing, and some things that are comfortable that you can easily change into. Don't try to put your jeans and like big coats and stuff, depending on where you live, but just like comfortable clothing that you can change into in case of an emergency so that you can so you're not in the same clothing the whole time. Another thing is try to connect with your community. So if there's people around you that are going through the same situation, lean on each other for support. Remember, you don't have to do this alone. This is a time where you need to avoid the social anxiety you're going to get. It's easier said than done. But if you can talk to other people that are going through the same issues that you're going through, either for emotional and physical support, and really rely on the resources. You may have some resources that they don't, and vice versa. So be able to help each other. Really get the community and try to support each other as much as possible. Also, try to do some self-care. If you haven't done so already, try to do things really. If you're by yourself, then try to meditate, try to do some yoga, try to relax as much as possible, do some laughter yoga. You may not have access to technology, so you might be by your own. And if you're like isolating your apartment, then maybe read some books or do whatever you can. If you are out stranded somewhere, then just make sure you have whatever you can, but try to do some mental state self-care to make sure you're grounded. And the worst thing we can do is panic. I know it's like I said, it's easier said than done, but if you panic, like everything goes out the window. So make sure just stay as calm as possible. That way you can think rationally and don't make any harsh decisions or rash decisions that you may regret later. Another part of the EAP is making an evacuation plan. So if you are in your apartment, what are your potential exits? It's good if you actually have it written down. So in case you're not alone or something to remind yourself, like I said, in crisis, you might forget things. So have it written down and have it inside your pack of, okay, so what are the possible exits in my apartment? How can I get out in case of an emergency? And then list up the different types of emergencies: fire, tornado, earthquake, flooding, and really write down what are the potential things and how can I evacuate in case that happens. What if somebody comes into your house at gunpoint? Like, what's your easiest method of exit? And, or if you have like maybe a safety weapon or something to protect yourself, is that in your emergency pack, or where can you access it in order for self-defense? Then if you don't have any self-defense items and you don't feel comfortable having those in your home, then what classes can you take to like martial art, self-defense classes, so to prepare you better in case of an emergency where you have to defend yourself against somebody else? And then write that down into your emergency action plan. And then lastly, as part of your emergency action plan, this is something you're going to have to do consistently, is staying updated with current events. I know that especially with weather and global warming happening, the weather's very unpredictable. So every now and then checking the news at least once a week to see what's going on around you, if the weather is being wild. And like I said, you notice that there's a wildfire that's getting close to your home, or if you notice there's a big storm coming, then really try to prepare as much as possible and be in the know, because our worst enemy here is ignorance. I know that sometimes it gets stressful with everything that's going on, but I'm not saying obsess over it and just look at like what's going on every day. But like I said, once a week, just to see what's going on, just checking the weather to see what to wear. And then if it's going to be too hot, to prepare with water bottles or things like that. Or if it's going to be too cold, so you can take out your winter blankets and start like warming up so you're not like uncomfortable, and just really being prepared as much as possible. And the last thing I want to talk about is the aftermath. So especially like people that are going in Hawaii, one, they have a lot of resilience. These individuals have gone through hell, yet they keep going, they keep persevering, they're going together as a community, and they're trying to make it work. And as sad as this is, there's always a quote that I grew up with: what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And it is, like I said, I'm not trying to make light of the subject. It is very bad that this happened. It is very sad that all the damage and all the loss that has occurred. But these individuals are also adapting, they're learning, and they're going to get through this. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but one day they're going to surpass all of this pain, and they're going to get the pain and make it into strength and continue going with their day. I know it's going to be a long time till they reach normacy, but they will get there one day at a time. Same thing with you. If you go through something really big, that a disaster that turns your world upside down, know that in the moment, yes, it's going to suck. It is not going to be the best of moods and the best of days for a while, but all you can do is take it one day at a time, one resource at a time, and don't be afraid to ask for help. A lot of the times we don't want to be an inconvenience, or we feel that we don't want to feel sorry for it. But this is the time where you need to suck up your pride and just say, hey, can you please help me? Because you're not in the right state of mind. You've gone through some severe trauma that you will not be thinking clearly. Lean on the cure community, lean on professionals. This is the time where you should seek out a coach, seek out a therapist, a psychiatrist. They're a group community where you can, one, vent, really let out the stress, because a lot of you guys will suffer through some post-traumatic stress that it's going to affect your body one way or another. So treat it as it's occurring and really seek out the help as much as possible. Your mental state is one of the most important things that you have in your body, and you have to make sure that it is healthy so that you can actually function correctly. A lot of us feel that, oh, we're fine, I'm strong, I don't need to do that. But I'm telling you from experience, if you let your mental stress continue, you do not address the trauma that you've experienced, your body will let it come out one way or another. I personally went through severe anxiety attack episodes when I was younger because I would not talk about my stress. I was burning my body out and I just did not talk about any trauma. I just suppressed it until my body said I had enough. And I had very severe episodes of anxiety attacks that mimic seizures. And I would start seizing. My whole body just got together, constructed. All the muscles got stiff and I would fall straight to the floor and start seizing very rapidly to the point where my whole body ached. And it would last like anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes. And it was terrifying. I felt like I was going to die. And for someone who hasn't had a panic attack, it is one of the worst feelings you can have. Really take care of your body. It's your vessel and it's the only one that you got. So really give it love, give it patience, and treat all of the ailments, whether it be physical or mental, and really seek out support and help. That pretty much ends this week's episode. Make sure you check out the next episode and give it some support. Check out the links so that you can, one, learn about disaster plans and how to create your own EAP. I'll have worksheets on there. And also the resources to be able to help the victims and the people that had went through the Maui wildfires. Once again, thank you again for supporting, watching this episode. If you haven't done so, leave me a 5-star review so that I can continue pushing this information out to many more people. And I appreciate all of you. Remember to tap into that inner unicorn and really be the best version of yourself one day at a time. Thank you so much. And until next time.
Thanks again for listening to Finding the Unicorn in You.